Hi, this is Lori Borman with American Libraries, and I'm here with Joel Garreau. He's the Lincoln Professor of Law, Culture and Values at Arizona State University, and he is here to talk with participants at the Summit on the Future of Libraries. Welcome.
Thank you.
You just finished your talk. You mentioned a few things that were really interesting to me. One was about how libraries are a place of trust. They're a place for reading. They're a place for learning. So tell us how...
And achievement.
And achievement. So tell us how you think those key messages will help the participants in talking about the future.
Thank you. I've been involved in trying to help libraries survive and get into the 21st century and thrive since about 2006 now. And coming into this as an outsider, one of the first questions I asked the people who I was working with, the librarians I was working with, is, what business are you in? That matters a lot. If you were, if the railroads back in the 1800s thought they were in the business of moving stuff on steel bars, if they had conceptualized that to thinking that they were in the transportation business, history would have been completely different, and our airlines would be called the Pennsylvania Airlines, or something like that. It really matters to focus on what business you're in. And when I started first working with librarians, it took us a year to answer that question of what business we're in. And in fairness, they hadn't encountered this question before. But what took a year was getting from them thinking that they were in the book business to getting to the point where they started to think that they were in the community business. And of course, we've now had another decade's worth of challenges that we've seen to questions like, what do we need librarians for in the age of Google? And of course, today I was taking it forward into the days that are increasingly common, in which you have things like brain implants. So what happens? What do you need libraries for in a world that has Google implants? And the answers that I've heard that I find the most satisfying as a non-librarian about what business you might be in which you can thrive, is one in which, that you're in the reading business, which means you're in the learning business, which means you're in the achievement business. It's not enough to just put the words in front of them. They've got to learn, and they've got to end up achieving. Now, this is not easy, nor is it without hazards. If you're in the learning and achievement business, you're beginning to go head-to-head with the schools. And you have to decide how you feel about that. Arguably, the schools are more screwed than the library, so maybe you'll win. But the other, I think, great assets that you have is that you're in the trust business and you're in the community business. I think that that no matter what technology we might be looking at in the future, having trusted human relationships and community relationships is something that's not going away. I think that's pretty hardwired in human nature. And you pretty much own an awful lot of that in your communities and in your universities and in all of your enterprises. So I think that's a very promising opportunity for you guys. But it's going to take some organizational heavy lifting to suddenly realize that those might be the businesses you're in, and then what do you do with them?
You mentioned that face-to-face contact is so important in this age of technology, and clearly libraries are starting to develop more and more community spaces. How do you see that as a part of the library of the future?
Yeah. Well, my argument is that as more and more stuff becomes digitized, then you end up with the highest possible value going on the stuff that is not digitizable. And we all know that face-to-face contact is the gold standard of human connections. There's some reason we just had this meeting here in the Library of Congress rather than doing it all on our smartphones. I don't know whether we were transmitting pheromones or viruses or God only knows what. But that face-to-face was the gold standard, and that is not likely to be digitized anytime soon, if ever. That's why I think it's a good business to be in, because you can't have that shot out from under you the way you've had books shot out from under you. Humans, there were predictions that we were all going to end up in our own personal mountaintop in Montana, being lured down into the flats only to breed. And that turned out to be a profound misreading of what it means to be human. We're social animals. Solitary confinement is a major punishment. So, bringing people together in ways that they haven't before strikes me as being a very good business, and one that you guys could own. Now, that doesn't, in my mind, mean putting up a community room and hoping somebody comes. This is reaching out to people who've got needs. So, one of my favorite collection of librarians, they've got a surplus of real estate. They're not making community rooms. They're making maker spaces. They're making DIY spaces, because they're bringing together people in ways in which they can read, but also learn and achieve, but doing it collectively. I mean, it's not throwing some couches out and passively hoping that this is going to solve the problem. No, what you're doing, it seems to me, if you're in the community business, you're going out and you're reaching to the people where they are and where they need to be, not just throwing around a few couches.
Great. Thanks so much for talking with me.